People love lists. We
They
like
do.
lists. It's Pro Wrestling Illustrated. The PWI 500 is out. Here are the top 10 as they posted to Twitter X. Cody Rhodes is the number one wrestler for the year in the PWI 500. What say you? Is this well-deserved, the 34th annual PWI 500? Cody Rhodes is the number one wrestler?
Yeah, I'd say so. He's had the big belt. Um, he's had the big belt. He's knocked off Roman Reigns. So if you're going to
Yep.
talk about PWI, Roman Reigns had it for so long. That alone, probably, because I know it's kind of the idea is it's a kayfabe ranking. So they rank
Yep.
on how good they're doing. It's not like who's the best wrestler. It's
Titles
like
matter, wins, losses matter, big matches matter, but also, yeah.
and then Cody win the Rumble.
Cody won the Rumble,
Cody
won
won the Rumble,
WrestleMania. Yep.
won WrestleMania, knocked off Roman Reigns with the title for 3 years. That alone would do it. So yeah, kind of a no-brainer, right? If you will.
In the top 10, 4 guys from WWE, 4 guys from AEW, and 2 guys I don't know. Caristico is a luchador, and this is a wrestler from Japan, Naoto Tetsuya. Everybody else, you recognize John Moxley, MJF, Will Ospreay, and Swerve Strickland is the highest ranking AEW wrestler. You watch AEW much more than I do. Agree with that?
Yeah. He won the title from Samoa Joe. Right entering 2024, and they made the rankings. He just dropped it, so it's kind of always like a first half of the year, right?
It's about
ranking.
a 12-month period, maybe September to August to August.
Oh, August. Well,
Maybe.
you know, you could have said, yeah, there was a lot of flip-flopping there. So MJF had the title, but he didn't have it for too long in that period, and then he loses it to Samoa Joe, and then Samoa Joe kind of hot potatoes it to Swerve Strickland, and then
4
Swerve had it in there.
WWE guys here. Besides Cody Rhodes, Seth Rollins is at 4. Gunther, we both like there, cracking the top 10 there at 9. This is the one that is most heartwarming for me, and kudos for him for everything he's earned. Archer of Infamy. It's Damian Priest.
Oh, wow.
Agree with Damian Priest being number 6. I do. I think he's had a great year.
Yeah,
Your Money in the Bank, great run as the Money in the Bank holder, finally cashing in at WrestleMania, having a great feud, and now turning babyface as he breaks up with the rest of the Judgment Day. I think fantastic job by Damian Priest, climbing into the upper echelon of pro wrestlers in the world as recognized by Pro Wrestling Illustrated.
And he lost it at SummerSlam, right?
He lost it, yes, thanks to Finn Balor interference.
Yeah. Yeah, so it wasn't he lost it dirty. It wasn't like he lost it straight up.
He
no,
won it dirty
I'm
as
cool
the
with
Money in the
Damian
Bank
Priest.
guy, and he lost it dirty.
And I guess
Right, he
Gunther's
wins it
down there
dirty,
low
loses.
because he lost. Yeah, I guess Gunther's lost to Sami Zayn knocked him down a few pegs, even though he won the title again.
Gunther's had a great year. If you want to say Gunther should be higher on the list, then move him up. Where do you think he should fit? And remember, that means everybody else has to drop down a notch. Where would you put Gunther?
Yeah, I don't know.
I think it's a pretty good list.
No, I think the list is fine.
Would you move Gunther above? Would you switch Gunther and Rollins? Or has Rollins had, has Rollins done such, I think Seth Rollins has done just yeoman's work. I mean, triple dipping at WrestleMania.
Yeah.
The way he did.
He's losing a lot though, too.
He was losing a lot. Yeah, he had the belt for a while, but then he lost the belt at WrestleMania, and then it's sort of been hurt. for a while, but I think he had a great year. Maybe because he was nursing injuries for a while, I could see swapping Gunther and Rollins, or I'll get real controversial. I'll swap Damian Priest and Rollins, and then I'll swap Gunther and Rollins there. So I'll go Priest, Damian at 4, the wrestler from Japan, Gunther at 6, MJF, Moxley, Rollins at 9, simply because he had injuries. So I can't really argue with the 10 that they've selected, especially since I don't know 2 of them. One being a luchador, one being a wrestler in Japanese promotions.
Well, I know Naito is really good.
Okay.
I know who that is. One thing I do want to point out is MJF's a little low for a guy that had the title from September. But I guess if it's going September to September, he only had the title for 3 months and then was out with injury for like a while.
Another Seth Rollins disease there. Yeah, having to nurse injuries.
Yeah, but then if we're thinking that way, then we gotta take Rollins lower because he's been hurt. So
yeah, I'd say Rollins at 9.
Yeah, Rollins at 9. But
Damian
I don't know.
To 4, Gunther to 6, Rollins to 9. Just shuffle up those 3 WWE guys. And I could be talked into Gunther at 4, Damian Priest staying at 6. Because Gunther's fantastic.
Yeah.
But yeah, I like that 10. Tell us in the chat, tell us in the comments, what do you think of this list? Does anybody on that list not deserve to be there in your opinion? Who would you take out? If you want to tell us that somebody should be on the list, tell us who's dropping off the list, because you can't have 12 guys on a top 10 list. So if you're adding somebody, tell us who you're removing. If you're just shuffling guys in the order, tell us how you're shuffling them. I like that. I like the list for the most part. I would tweak it here and there, but I enjoyed that. So very good. People like lists. People like counting.
They like counting and they like lists. And that's something
you mentioned someone who's not on there. Roman Reigns is not on there, but he and Paul Heyman were on Bloomberg Live. Go catch this at the Bloomberg Live channel. We're getting this from YouTube. They may be on other streaming platforms as well. This was September 5th. They were on Bloomberg Live talking. Bloomberg is a news and business news outlet. So they're talking WWE from a business standpoint, talking about the stock price of TKO Holdings, talking about the great property that WWE is, the Netflix deal, the USA deal, the NBC deals, how the stock price is way up, and how Roman Reigns, as Paul Heyman keeps pointing out, is responsible for all of this. So this was Paul Heyman continuing to cut promos for Roman Reigns, who he referred to as his tribal chief.
Wow.
Oh, yes.
That's something.
And, I am the wise man.
It's something that he's still in the picture. And yes. You would wonder what would happen with Roman Reigns and Paul Heyman, but I guess they're together because they're on Bloomberg together.
They're on Bloomberg. They're still very recognizable, and they are very good spokespeople to bring out there to talk about the business of pro wrestling. They're each very well. We've seen them together on ESPN doing their First Take show. Shannon Sharp was there and Stephen A. Smith. Because they speak well of just the business and the entertainment side. It's not just like Roman Reigns and Paul Heyman have to cut wrestling promos all the time.
Which would be hilarious if they were just acting like wrestlers out there.
It would be. This was a 23-minute segment, though. That might get a little long at some point, especially with 2, straight up news people here who don't know what's going on.
Roman Reigns comes out and threatens to beat up the news people.
Right.
The segment's over.
It's like, I'm the head of the table. He's like smirking at them. He's taking the microphone away from them. Eventually, like Superman punches one of them, spears the other.
Yeah. That's the Bloomberg I want to see.
Yep. Now, Paul Heyman mentioned something in this. He always gets on camera thinking that people have no idea who he is and the people are watching for the very first time. He always says, "My name is Paul Heyman," because he wants people who've never seen the show before to know who he is. When he gets in the ring, he always addresses Roman Reigns first as his tribal chief because he wants to know, okay, that guy's the tribal chief. He's constantly going through the basics of the angle for everybody. It's not just gimmick and habit.
Interesting.
Like it's part of his shtick. He's doing that because he always thinks there might be somebody watching for the first time.
You know what? And that's why he's the best ever, or one of the best ever.
Right.
Say your name so people will remember it, because there's going to be someone that's never seen you before.
Yep.
So they're going to be like, "Oh, that's Paul Heyman."
Yep. Oh, and that's the tribal chief.
Mm-hmm.
That's why he's there. That's the head of the table. That's my tribal chief. Yep. Perfect. Other business and out of ring stuff. Mr. McMahon. A big Netflix 6-part Netflix is not only getting Raw beginning in January and some other programming, they're getting a Netflix 6-part Vince McMahon docuseries. They put out a trailer for it, which I will not play because I don't want anybody to get mad at us. But apparently it's a Netflix. It's a my name is not Vince. My name is Mr. McMahon. It includes The Rock, Hulk Hogan, Paul Triple H Levesque in interviews. This comes from filmmaker Chris Smith, who produced The Tiger King, and The Ringer's founder and CEO Bill Simmons, who did his own stuff for a long time and was on ESPN for a long time.
Yeah.
What say you? Are you interested in the Mr. McMahon docuseries here on Netflix?
Here's the deal. I would be interested in this if it's not just a puff piece. And if it's going to be about how great Mr. McMahon is and all of his history and all that and everything I already know, and I can see the guys lined up. It's Cena, it's Undertaker, it's Cena, Undertaker, and
his son-in-law,
Hogan.
his daughter.
Yeah.
Hulk Hogan, who still likes him.
They're not going to say anything about Vince. They're going to say, "Oh, he's crazy," which I know. But then I wonder if they'll start to drill down on some of the reasons why he left WWE and what's going on. And
this comes to us from comingsoon.net, talking about it. Detours to discuss Vince's involvement in the steroid scandal, the deaths of wrestlers at a relatively young age, the disturbing sexual assault allegations that led Vince to step away from WWE. So maybe there is some, and real investigative reporting here, stuff that perhaps people haven't heard before.
Yeah, there's some stuff too. So Bill Simmons has made documentaries that are great. They're called 30 for 30. Have you ever heard of them?
Yes, he was one of the brain trust people behind that ESPN series. Yes.
So I would hope, and a lot of those 30 for 30, they weren't necessarily putting people in good light. They did a 30 for 30 on Ric Flair, and man, oh man, did he not look good. He had his kids on the 30 for 30 yelling about him and how he was never home and how he's a bad father. He was talking about his alcoholism. That's when people really knew he's an alcoholic. He was talking about he was drinking like 15 drinks a day. He had people on there trashing him, and it had him crying. And it's like, oh, I wish I could just be a better person and stuff like that. It was not the fun. It wasn't like the fun idea that you had for a Ric Flair documentary where it'd be all fun and good. And I can remember my mother watched it, and I was like, "Did you like it?" She's like, "No." Like, why? She's like, "I just don't like that guy." It was that bad. So they made.
So it got Flair over as a heel.
It got him over as a heel, exactly. So I'm hoping maybe with Bill Simmons in the mix here, we're able to get a documentary that will be, real to what happened in his life.
Watch
about
the
you?
trailer on Netflix or find Netflix's channel on other streaming places like YouTube. Thank you. Coming soon for the story there.
How about you?
Net
How about you, Dom? Are you looking forward to this?
I don't know. It's almost like it's overkill at this point.
Mm,
Like the documentaries are fun because you don't know about the person outside of their wrestling in the ring.
yeah.
I think I've been a wrestling fan since the 80s. So I almost get the sense that I've kind of grown up with this.
You've known everything there is to know.
I've grown
Yeah.
up with the steroid scandal.
Hmm.
And the TV wars, the Monday Night Wars, and WWE almost going out of business. And
It might be more interesting for a non-fan.
Or a newer fan.
Newer
fan, a casual fan, or yes, maybe a non-fan. Netflix has a huge audience. I would imagine they're trying to make this so that it's interesting to people other than hardcore wrestling folks, while still having enough there for hardcore wrestling people to be interested in.
Mhm.
I don't know. I'm going to be on the fence for it. Netflix, of course, is promoting it on their X account there. Mr. McMahon, Mastermind, Madman. And there it shows him as not only the puppet master, but as a guy performing as the puppet as well.
Hey, let
So
us know in the chat too. What do you guys think of this? Are you looking forward to this Netflix special?
Starting September 25th, so a little more than a week away if you want to catch it from the beginning as soon as it's ready. WWE also in business news set to announce a live primetime special on NBC, with whom they partner for a lot of programming. Not only their streaming stuff is on Peacock, all the premium live events are on Peacock. I think USA is also a Peacock umbrella property. So they do a ton of stuff with the NBC umbrella of broadcasting properties. One is scheduled for a Saturday night in December. So it's almost like a premium live event, except it's not going to be called a premium live event. It'll be WWE's first primetime NBC special since August 2nd of 2008. I remember in the 80s, Saturday night's main event, where about maybe once a month, Saturday Night Live would have the week off, and WWE would run Saturday night's main event in that time slot. It happened maybe once a month or once a quarter, but I do remember it. There was some cool stuff on it. So yeah, this goes back a long ways. Pardon?
Is it Saturday Night Shotgun?
No, it was called Saturday Night's Main Event.
Oh, okay.
From the 80s. It would run in Saturday Night Live's time slot, 11 o'clock, 11:30 on a Saturday night. Once a quarter or whenever, when Saturday Night Live would have been doing a rerun, they would just not run it, and they would run a WWE program. Look up Saturday Night's Main Event from the old WWF, back when it was still called that, before they got into a spat with the World Wildlife Fund over who gets to use the initials WWF.
So it'll be on NBC, and it'll be a nationally televised thing.
Yep.
Interesting.
Could be fun.
Yeah.
More business. We know this guy. It's Bryan Danielson. This comes to us from WrestleZone. He's saying he got a legal letter from WWE over the yes trademark. He yells out the word yes. Apparently, you can't trademark that. How can you trademark the word yes? He applied for the trademark back in July, but revealed that it's some sort of legal action from the WWE soon after. I can't believe that anybody can trademark somebody saying yes. This is crazy. Pro wrestling is real. Intellectual property law is fake.
Right. Wait, let me just do something. Yes. Am I in trouble?
Yeah.
Am I in trouble? I just did it on a recording.
if somebody asks you 3 questions in a row and you answer yes to each of them, is this trademark infringement? How is this even a question?
Does Triple H drive up and say, "Excuse me, you owe us like this much money"?
My goodness. Bryan Danielson was praising Swerve Strickland in an interview as well. So he agrees with PWI that Swerve Strickland should be way up on that list. I don't get it. There's too many lawsuits all over the place. Good for Bryan Danielson, who is the AEW World Champion, right?
That's right.
We like it. You talked about Bayley seeming like just a normal, nice person out of the ring. Here she is with Mercedes Moné, the former Sasha Banks. They are friends. So AEW and WWE sometimes do get along. They were each at the premiere for the movie Killer's Game, which I think is Dave Bautista's movie, correct?
Mm-hmm.
Also, with a cameo there by Drew McIntyre. So there they are in their Hollywood premiere. Get up, Mercedes Moné, Bayley. See, they don't have to fight all the time. WWE and AEW can get along if they have to.
These two are constantly getting along. They're like best friends. They're everywhere
They are.
together.
They're best friends in real life. They don't hide it. It's like they almost dare the internet to call them out on it.
It's almost like they do it on purpose a little bit too.
Yep.
So, yeah, they're totally both best friends. And what a better best friend to have than someone in another company, so you can hear the whispers of like, "Oh, they're hiring. They're gonna pay you big money."
You can get all the gossip, yes, and you have an in. Like networking is important if you have to switch jobs.
Yeah, or stay out of here, man. It's not any good. She's gonna hear firsthand what the deal is.
Yeah, it's wonderful. Very good for them. Very good for the movie being released there for everybody involved. AEW and TV. Fox enters the fray as AEW's never-ending media rights saga rolls on. Fox just lost Smackdown. I don't know if you heard, John.
Yeah, I wonder.
Smackdown used to be on Fox, and not anymore. Now it's on USA.
I heard. I done heard.
This comes to us from awfulannouncing.com. You sent this to me after finding it. You said you might have something to share on the live stream here on our full show. Don't bury the lead here. What say you? Do you have some information about this?
Well, here's the deal. Wanted to cough before I get going. So Fox it says enters the fray as AEW's never-ending media rights saga rolls on. And there's lots of theories being thrown around, like, oh, is Collision going to be on Friday night on SmackDown? Or is like Dynamite going to be a part of Fox? And then there's a new show called Shockwave. And if you scroll down a little bit, there should be, they might not have the image. There's someone already made like a photoshopped image of Shockwave on Fox. So pretty much at the end of the day, I have a theory, and I'm just going to go ahead and say it. Okay, so basically Fox isn't going to have AEW be on any of their TV programs. They're not going to take AEW Dynamite and put it on Fox, because that only get less ratings, and that higher rating was unacceptable, and that's why SmackDown is off Fox. It did not perform as well as they wanted it to. So it's not going to be on the big channel. There's also FS1, which the ratings will just be a bit lower, and they probably have a sport to fill in for that. But there's a little streaming service called Tubi. Have you heard of Tubi, Tom?
I have heard of Tubi. I think I've watched a few things on it.
Tubi is a very, very interesting company, interesting streaming service. And I say this because as of 2 months ago, they have more users that are watching their content than Disney Plus. They are beating Disney Plus, who has thrown millions and millions of dollars at buying out Star Wars, trying to make shows from Star Wars, buying out different entities and trying to make shows, and all the shows are tanking, and Disney Plus is in a really bad spot right now because people don't like Disney, and they spent a ton of money to make it so that people like Disney. But you can't just buy Star Wars and then start making shows about Star Wars and then expect them to be good. They have to be good, right? They're not delivering. So and then Disney Plus, much like the other streaming networks, is expensive. Hulu's jacked up their rates. Netflix has jacked up their rates. There's these different, streaming services that have essentially increased the rates to a point where people say, no, I'm not going to pay this. I'm not going to pay Disney Plus for this. Or even, you look like a Hulu. I just canceled it this morning. It was like $25 for Hulu and Disney. And I'm like, I don't watch any of this, so I'm canceling it,
Good.
And it's $25 a month. It's not cheap. It's not like it's free. And this is where Tubi comes in. So Tubi has gotten really popular because in these times of people raising prices due to inflation, aka greedflation, because they're just seeing, oh yeah, we can jack up the prices. Tubi is a free service, and it's got shows on it that are really goofy. So the way that they're able to be a free service is they went to the bargain barrel and they got some shows. They have Yu-Gi-Oh!, which is a popular Japanese anime cartoon. They have Leave It to Beaver, that whole series. So, retro, very popular during its era, but really retro old stuff. Fear Factor with Joe Rogan. Stuff like this. Stuff that you don't watch, but they get a lot of views on Tubi because people are flipping through. There's other shows. There's like teen dramas from the 2000s that are on there, like that were usually on the WB or something like that. Then these dramas, they get a lot of hits because there's like nostalgia to it. Oh, I remember this show. I only watched a couple episodes. They start watching it. They start watching Tubi. This is really how Netflix came to be too. They would get these weird shows and then they would get the rights to them and then people would binge watch them on their platform. So Tubi is on the up and up, and they're looking for pro wrestling. And I have an idea of where they're going to fit. They're on the up and up. They're looking for pro wrestling. And these shows
AEW Shockwave.
No, I'm actually going to go a different direction, and I'm going to share my screen real quick to show you where direction
very
I'm
good.
heading. It's a show that's on tonight. AEW Collision. Just like the other shows I mentioned, nobody watches them anymore. Here's AEW. Here's a shot of AEW Collision, and nobody's there. And this has just been the case for AEW Collision. They have low ratings. It's at 400,000, 500,000, at best 500,000. And they've been struggling with low ratings. And at the end of the day, it's become one of these things where, maybe TBS isn't interested in them. But maybe Tubi says, you know what? Come on down to the bargain barrel. You'll be right next to Leave It to Beaver, Yu-Gi-Oh!, Fear Factory. And it could be a good fit because there's a lot of users watching this stuff. So it could be their wrestling show. It's not going to be the best one because guess what? It's Tubi. It's got crap on it. So it's got Fear Factor with Joe Rogan.
According to Sean Ross Sapp, it's not necessarily the case that Fox did not like having wrestling on their programs. Fox didn't have trouble selling ads, but rather it was more a matter of WWE rights fees cutting into the revenue so much. So Fox was doing well with the programming. Presumably an AEW rights fee wouldn't be nearly as high as the reported $1 billion Fox paid WWE over the course of its 5-year deal, although neither would be the return from a ratings or an ad sales standpoint. So, maybe Fox doesn't put it onto the main Fox broadcast network in prime time. Maybe it winds up on FS1. Maybe it winds up on Tubi. Lowered expectations, but at the same time, the reports of Fox just being out of pro wrestling and not liking pro wrestling as a genre may have been premature there.
Yeah, it seems like they're interested. To at least, who knows? These are just rumors, so I'm just saying I'm kind of going with the rumors here. But if the rumors are true that they're talking and that they're, I think it's the best fit is Collision goes to Tubi.
I would check it out if there was a show on Tubi. I'd tune in and give it a chance.
Yeah, and it might be a win-win because nobody's watching it now, and they're probably losing money left and right. So hey, put it on.
Take
Tubi.
a shot.
Yeah.
Speaking of AEW, you know these guys. In the middle here is Stephen Borden, son of the Stinger, who is training to be a wrestler with, flanking him here, FTR. That's Adam Copeland. That's Darby Allin. And, of course, Uncle Dax of FTR. Dax said, album drops soon, like it's the band's cover there.
Yeah.
What do you think of these guys training together?
Good. And it's good to see Edge moving around. It looks like if he's able to train, that's amazing considering the injury he took.
Yes. He was in pretty bad shape. Great short edited clip that you made that was kind of a deep dive into it that is on our page. Go search for Edge jumping off the top of the steel cage and injuring himself on an ill-fated elbow drop off the top of a steel cage. Great video you did. Lots of views from it. The audience seemed to enjoy it. If you haven't seen it yet, or if you want to see it again, search for Don't Bury the Lead on YouTube. And hey, give it a view. Give it a like if you haven't yet. And give us a subscribe if you're over at the channel now. Those things help us get seen by the algorithms. So very good. Adam Copeland, you mentioned his recovery there. He gave an interview to AM New York here about his injuries, how difficult it is, especially at his age and after all the injuries he's had, to work out and to get in shape, and especially now that he's recovering from a major injury. It's tough on him. He and Christian Cage had a new product out that helps you plank, but without, I guess, all of the strain. So you're like sort of planking, called Pure Plank, which is the kind of thing you would expect wrestlers to come up with. It's like wrestlers are known for coming up with new ways of either working out or getting themselves back in shape because they don't have the luxury that other pro sports leagues have, where you have an off season. You only have to perform, if it's football, once a week. Basketball or hockey, maybe 2 or 3 times. Baseball's a little tough. You're playing 6 games a week. But there's an off season in all of these sports. You've got trainers that follow you around in a team. In wrestling, pro wrestling, you're still mostly an independent contractor. You're on your own. There's no off season. These guys have to train. They have to stay in shape. A lot of them expect to do it longer than maybe the 7 or 8 years that your average professional athlete is able to perform at. So they come up with different ways to do it. Adam Copeland also talking about him and his wife, Beth Phoenix, talking about opening up a wrestling school that would be a type of finishing school where if there are people within the industry that feel like they're just missing a little something, come on down to Asheville because you got FTR, you got me, and you got Beth Phoenix. So they're all apparently in the Asheville, North Carolina area. And opening a finishing school. What do you think about that? If you were if you were an indie wrestler, you trained for a while with some guys. You didn't just go in there, green and jump into the ring and start bouncing around. You trained for a bit. What do you think of say a finishing school where you're learning from guys like Adam Copeland, great women wrestlers like Beth Phoenix?
Yeah, you'd have to do it. Honestly, you'd have to. You'd have to find time to get down there, especially if it's just like a week seminar or something like that. You would have to. I would want to.
It looks like they're doing a dry run of it here, right?
Yeah, right.
With Stephen Borden, who wants to get into wrestling there.
Yeah,
Good for all of these guys if it works.
If I was there and Darby Allin was telling me stuff, I'd say, no, not you, Darby.
No,
I'm going to talk to Adam, and I'm going to talk to FTR, obviously, but not you, Darby.
Although they're all getting a little riskier now.
What's that?
Okay, here's how you stand on the top of a steel cage and botch an elbow drop onto a table.
Yeah.
Don't know if I want to learn that.
Darby Allin's like, all right, you're on the ladder. There's real glass down at the bottom. Fall onto the glass. Make sure the glass hits people in the crowd, too.
Yes.
That's part of the spot.
Give everyone a very special souvenir from this AEW pay-per-view.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a changing business. Injuries, of course, part of it. Although nowadays they have stem cell research. This is Sami Zayn and Ivar from WWE going for stem cell treatments in their recovery from a lot of injuries that these guys have had. This is from Instagram from RejuveStem, which apparently these guys are using here. There's Rey Mysterio is doing this as well. And in fact, if you go into the archive, WrestlingInc.com, all the way back to 2015, more than 9 years ago, Rey Mysterio is talking about getting stem cell treatment on his knee. So some of these guys have been at the forefront of new treatments and new techniques for a long time. And hey, you're in the wrestling business. Maybe you try something that's a little different. But if it works, and if this is what allows guys to wrestle into their 40s and maybe into the early 50s there and perform and not be just a shell of a human being physically when they decide to hang it up, good for them. What say you about this kind of treatments? Without divulging too much of medical history, have you ever tried stem cell treatments or some other really experimental kind of treatment? And are you glad you did? What do you think of the pro wrestlers giving this stuff a shot?
I've never done stem cell stuff. I don't think you could do it in the U.S., right? They must do that overseas.
They may need to take a little medical tourism to do this kind of stuff. Yeah, I have heard about people doing that.
Because I know Peyton Manning used it years ago because it's very controversial. Mm-hmm. But Peyton Manning used it years ago, and he used it on his neck.
His neck recovery, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it worked, but it's crazy.
Worked for a little while there. Speaking of people recovering from injuries, Asuka, this comes to us from WrestleZone. Apparently, they are citing Mike Johnson of PW Insider. We did their Pro Wrestling Illustrated 500 at the beginning. She underwent knee surgery. She's recovering still. She apparently has signed a long-term deal with WWE. So they are confident that she will be back wrestling. Would you like to see Asuka back on the main roster of WWE?
I just clapped it up for her.
There you go.
Good
Very
signing.
Good. I say yes as well.
I bet you she got a bunch of money. Seriously. I think where the contracts are right now and how anxious Tony is to get women on the roster, I think they probably some pressure, and they said we got to lock her up because they kind of dropped the ball with Sasha or Mercedes. They're probably like we need her moving forward, which is crazy because she's pretty old too, right?
This is not sexist, it's just biology. I'm guessing that women athletes age a little more harshly than male athletes seem to age.
Yeah, so she's 42.
She's 42. Wow.
Yeah.
And she still wrestles at that level.
Yeah.
Like even for a man wrestling at 42, that's impressive. If Asuka is able to come back Do you want to see, I'll throw this out, fantasy booking. Do you want to see Asuka and Io Sky team up and take the belts off of Bianca Belair and Jade Cargill?
Yeah, as heels.
Wouldn't that
I
be
thi-
a fantastic team?
that might only work if, I mean, there's no other tag teams that are going to do it, right? Unless Tiffany Stratton and Nia Jax decide they want to.
Right?
There's no other teams out there to have anyone, you know?
Asuka and Kairi Sane held the belts, and Asuka just very yeoman's work there. Wrestled through the injury to make sure they could get through the big pay-per-views for the winter and spring before dropping the belts. So Asuka is a pro's pro. Great news. I enjoy
Absolutely.
watching her. Tons of charisma, even though she doesn't speak a lot of English and can't really cut promos. Tons of charisma.
That's what's
Fantastic
I was talking
athlete.
about that earlier with Ricky and stage presence.
Yes,
She's
right?
she got excellent stage presence, which
Yes.
makes her charismatic. I don't need to hear her talk. I know what
No.
she's doing.
I love it that we've mentioned Ricky again.
I just had to shoehorn him in.
If there was any doubt that Ricky carried the first ever SmackDown on USA, you're getting your confirmation here. So Asuka, hopefully we see her back soon. Let's end on an NWA note. Tom Latimer wins the NWA World's Heavyweight Championship at NWA 76. This comes to us from Fightful. And I mention this not only because EC3 had held the belt for just about a year, and Tom Latimer is getting his first crack at the World's Heavyweight Championship, but how many husband and wife duos have been NWA World's Heavyweight Champions? Tom Latimer is married to Camille, who held the belt for the Women's World Championship for 800 and something days.
Wow.
She's now in AEW. But how about that for a husband and wife pairing?
Yeah.
Tom Latimer, formerly married to Charlotte Flair. So he has a type.
Big
He
woman
seems
wrestler.
to have a type at this point, right? But yes, a husband and wife duo who have held NWA world titles.
Wow, I didn't realize he's married to Charlotte Flair.
He was the former Bram in WWE. Has seen a lot of success in the NWA. National champion, when it was in a tag team for a while, tag team titles in the NWA, in an alliance in a stable with Nick Aldis and Camille, who was also in that stable for a while. This was 2018, 19, early 2020, that range as well. So Tom Latimer, NWA, longtime great performer, getting his crack to carry the big gold belt there, as his wife Camille did for more than 2 years. Fantastic stuff there. That's what I got. It is pathologically inexpensive. It is unseasonably warm. It is cheap.
Heat.